The third and final Fear Street movie just got released on Netflix, but did it end the trilogy on a high? Let's find out. Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel Lifestyle Critic. I hope you're doing well. In this video we are going to be reviewing Fear Street 1666, which is the third and final installment as part of the Fear Street trilogy on Netflix based on the book series by RL Stine, and I'm pleased to say that it actually did conclude the series really well. I mean, certain moments were a little bit predictable and you could see them coming as you're progressing across the third installment, but you know, that being said, very similarly to the second installment, 1978, the second half of this movie is miles better than the first half. But you know, because you're so invested in the world and with these characters, it does work really well, and I'm going to be breaking it all down for you in this movie review. So from a storyline point of view, the third Fear Street movie actually has two stories, so you actually get two for the price of one in this edition. So the first part is set in 1666, so you really get to see the Sarah Fier character, who is allegedly the witch and the person behind all of the curses and the killing massacre. So it's really interesting to see a lot more about this character. And the second part picks up in 1994, where you get to see the conclusion, final reveal and twist, and potential fourth part happening after this, which is really interesting. And you also get to see what's really behind everything, and you get to piece all of the clues together, and you get to see how everything ties together really well in this movie. Now, from a positives point of view, I really thought it was a great conclusion to everything that you've seen before. It links everything together really well, and you can see all of the different clues that they've laid out in the first two installments coming full circle in this movie, which is really great. It also retains its horror roots. I mean, they could have pushed it a little bit more, but it is trying to wrap everything up, and it does that really well. And also, I think it uses past and present storytelling really well. And like I said, there are certain moments that are a little bit predictable as a result of this, but nonetheless, I think it works really well. Now, from a negatives point of view, like I said, certain moments were a little bit predictable, as you could definitely see them coming as you're progressing through this movie. I also think they could have pushed the intensity of certain moments a lot further. And like I said before as well, the second half is so much stronger than the first half. The first half is a little bit slow and definitely has some pacing issues, but you know, all in all, it does work really well from a storyline point of view. So from a cast and characters point of view, it's really interesting what they did with this movie, as they brought all of the actors and actresses back from the first two installments. I got them playing different characters in the past. It's really funny, if you've seen Riverdale before, you'll have known that they've actually done this trick before, where they got the kid characters playing younger versions of the adult characters, which I think is really interesting in this movie. And as a result, it means that they've got all of the cast and characters back from the first two installments, which is really great. So let's go through them one by one. So first up we have Kiana Madeira, who is playing two characters this time. She's playing the Dina character, as well as playing the Sarah Witch character, Sarah Fier herself. And she does a really good job in playing both of these characters. She's able to assimilate in the past really well, as well as playing the character in the present day really well as well. I'm sure that this actress will have a very successful future ahead of her after really demonstrating that she can definitely be really versatile with her acting. Next up we have Gillian Jacobs, who I was hoping and expecting would do a little bit more in this movie. She is obviously back as the Ziggy character, and she does do some interesting stuff in this movie, but I really feel like they could have done a lot more with this character. Next up we have Zukerman, who is brilliant as well in this movie. He's quietly intense in this film, like he was in the previous two installments as well, and he's playing two different characters in the past and in the present, and he is just really brilliant in this film. And then finally we have Benjamin Flores Jr. and Olivia Welch back in this movie too. Similarly, like with Gillian Jacobs, they could have done a little bit more in this movie, but you know what they did do was really intense, and they were really great from a conclusion and continuity point of view. And so from a casting characters point of view overall, they were really great in the third Fear Street movie. So from a visuals point of view, they did do a really good job in terms of showcasing the two different centuries and the two different timelines in this movie. So all of the scenes in 1666, you really do feel like you've travelled all the way back to the past and are living with these characters, which is really great, as they definitely do ingrain you into that world. And likewise, all of the scenes in the 90s, you definitely do feel like you've been travelling back to the 90s. All of those scenes are really great. I do feel like they could have pushed the intensity and the thriller moments in this film so much further, I still hold that the opening sequence in the first movie is still the best across the entire trilogy, as that moment was really nail-biting, really intense, and nothing ever was able to measure the brilliance of the opening from the first movie. There's another scene in this movie that is trying to be really chilling, whereby the police officers are murdered by the supernatural killers, but unfortunately it doesn't come across as dramatically as they were hoping, and if anything, it's a little bit comedic in how it's executed. And so from a visuals point of view, I do feel like they could have pushed certain moments a lot further, but you know, for what they do in this movie, it is actually pretty strong. It's really interesting in terms of comparisons, as it is a decent movie in and of itself. However, if you compare it to the other trilogy entries, I think the first two installments are so much stronger than this movie, and as such it is the weakest one as part of the Fear Street trilogy. Also, comparing it to other thrillers, I do not think is as good as Scream, I Know We Did Last Summer, and the Babysitter franchise as well. And so whilst it is a decent movie, it's just not as great as other movies within this category. So overall, you know, I did enjoy Fear Street 1666, the third and final installment as part of the Fear Street trilogy, as it did wrap everything up. There were really interesting clues that you were able to piece together, and it did come full circle with this movie and had a really satisfying conclusion. And I also really like how they did leave it a bit open-ended in terms of having potentially a fourth movie within this franchise, which I think is really interesting. You know, that being said, it wasn't as great as the other two installments as part of the Fear Street trilogy, but you know, it is still a decent movie, and so for all of those reasons, I'm going to give it a solid 6 out of 10. I'd love to hear what you think, so please let me know in the comment section below. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you in my next video.